I was standing in my driveway at 6 in the morning, still in yesterday's flannel, holding a folded bank slip for $52,000, when my phone buzzed with a text from my son. "Don't come today, Dad. You'll throw off the photos." I read it twice. Then I folded the slip back into my shirt pocket and went inside to start the coffee. Because a man my age has learned one thing for certain: the coffee still needs making, no matter what the phone says. But let me take you back to where this started. Before starting, tell me, where are you watching from, and please like, share, and subscribe. My name is Walt Kozlowski. I'm 64 years old. For 38 years I worked as a machinist at a fabrication shop off Butler Street here in Pittsburgh, cutting steel parts so precise that if you were off by the width of a hair, the whole piece went in the scrap bin. That's the world I come from. Measure twice, cut once, no shortcuts, no exceptions. My wife Diane and I bought a narrow brick row house in Lawrenceville back in 1987. We raised our son Ryan in that house. I taught him to check his oil in the driveway, to read a torque wrench, to shake a man's hand like he meant it. Diane passed 6 years ago. Before she went, she made me promise 2 things: that I'd keep the house, and that I'd never touch what was left in our retirement account unless it was life or death. That account held one number: $52,000. The same number, it turned out, my son would need by 9 o'clock the next morning. Ryan's 33 now. Good kid, sharp, driven, works in software sales downtown. 2 years back he started seeing a woman named Vanessa Calloway, whose family kept a place out in Sewickley Heights, the kind of neighborhood where the driveways are longer than my whole street. I was happy for him, proud even. I never once thought that pride would come with an invoice. 6 weeks before the wedding, Ryan called to say the guest list needed trimming. Vanessa's parents wanted things a certain way for the photos, he told me, smaller, more polished. I said I understood. Weddings get expensive, lists get cut. I wasn't going to make it about my feelings. What he actually meant became clear 3 days later, when my cousin Marie called to ask how the wedding had gone. I told her it hadn't happened yet. She went quiet. Then she told me it had Saturday afternoon at the Calloway place. Nobody had even given me the real date. Sunday morning, Ryan called again. His voice carried that easy warmth it always has right before he needs something. "Dad, I wanted to tell you myself before you saw it online. We got married yesterday. It was beautiful." Then, almost in the same breath, "There's a small issue with the venue payment. Vanessa's family had a hold put on one of their trust accounts. Nothing serious, just timing. It comes to $52,000. I told them my dad always has my back. Can you send it today?" I didn't answer right away. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where I once checked his math homework, and opened the invoice he'd emailed. $12,000 for flowers, $18,000 for a 5-course dinner I never tasted. I read every line the way I'd read a blueprint, because in my trade, if a number looks wrong, it usually is. In my trade, we have a saying about trust. Trust is torque. You build it slow, one turn at a time, thread by thread, until it can hold real weight for years. But strip that thread just once, and no wrench ever made will make it hold again. Sitting at that table, I didn't know yet how badly the thread had already stripped. I only knew that for the first time in 33 years, I wasn't reaching for my checkbook. I was reaching for my glasses, to read the fine print instead. That night I called Sal Marchetti, an old union buddy who spent 30 years as a clerk at the Allegheny County Courthouse before he retired. I asked him to look into the Calloway name. It took him one afternoon to call back. The house in Sewickley Heights wasn't in foreclosure. It wasn't even in the Calloway's name. It sat under a holding company, carrying liens from 2 different banks. Richard Calloway hadn't filed a personal tax return with any listed income in 4 years. Then Sal found the part that stopped my heart. 2 years earlier, Vanessa's older sister had married a man from Erie named Peter Doyle. Peter's father, a retired dentist, had wired $81,000 to cover the exact same kind of venue emergency. The marriage was annulled 8 months later. He never saw a dollar of it again. This wasn't a family going through a rough patch. This was a routine. A wedding wasn't the beginning of something for the Calloways, it was the collection date. And my son, without knowing it, had been chosen the same way you'd choose a supplier, reliable, paid off, and willing to say yes. I called Ryan the next morning. I didn't raise my voice. I told him about the holding company, the liens, and about Peter Doyle from Erie. I told him I loved him too much to hand his new family a number even the accountants couldn't make sense of. He didn't believe me at first. Then he got angry, said I was jealous, said I'd never liked Vanessa, said I was choosing a bank account over my own son. I let him say it. Anger needs somewhere to go, and I'd rather it landed on me than on nobody at all. I'm not sending the money, Ryan, I told him. Not because I don't love you, because I do. If the Callaways want to talk about the bill, tell them the man who wasn't good enough to stand in the photos probably isn't the right man to send the payment either. The wedding coordinator called 2 days later, asking about the balance. I gave him the same answer and never heard from him again. Months after that, I heard secondhand that the caterer had filed a claim against the Callaways directly. I didn't celebrate it. A man who spends his life reading blueprints knows that anything built on a bad foundation eventually settles on its own. Ryan didn't speak to me for 4 months. Then, on a Tuesday evening in November, he knocked on the door of the house he grew up in. Thinner, tireder. He said the marriage was on pause while Vanessa's family sorted some things out. He said he was sorry, not about the money, but about the text, the one about the photos. That was the line that actually broke him, standing there on my porch in his work coat. I didn't hand him a check. I didn't owe him an apology either, so I didn't offer one. What I did was step aside and let him into the garage, the way I used to when he was 12. I handed him a torque wrench and nodded toward the old engine I'd been meaning to rebuild. "Thread stripped on this one," I said. "Let's see if we can't fix it the slow way." He took the wrench. We didn't say much else that night. We didn't need to. For 38 years I measured everything twice before I ever trusted it. That Sunday morning, for the first time, I finally measured myself the same way. If that invoice had landed in your inbox instead of mine, would you have paid it, or would you have reached for your glasses first?